The real standoff in the Hardeep Singh Nijjar killing case is not so much between Canada and India. That relationship has, for a variety of reasons, collapsed, and it will not be repaired anytime soon. It will go the way of relationships we have with Pakistan, China, and Turkey. No question about that. The real story is that this Hardeep Singh Nijjar killing case will become, if it has not already become, a case to test what extent the West walks the talk of wooing India and developing close relations with it. That is what we certainly have been led to believe. Evidence of that was the visible bromance between the Western and Indian heads of government at the recently concluded G20 summit in Delhi. Even earlier than that event, the Australian Prime Minister had referred with affection to the Indian Prime Minister as boss. Add to that the endearing sight of the American President and the Indian Prime Minister holding hands as time-tested friends whenever they met in an official capacity. But between the talk and the walk, there is a world of a difference. State visits and high-powered summits are both real and unreal to that extent. They signal intent, but maybe not necessarily change on the ground. The statements issued by Western governments in response to the Nijjar killing cannot be music to Indian policymakers. They stop short of just being hostile. What is their real intent? The United States has called the killing a serious matter and not coaxed, but almost demanded that India should cooperate with Canadian investigations. The tone and tenor of Australia and United Kingdom is the same. Don't be fooled by specious media reporting in India which feels the West is backing India on this issue. Western government statements on this issue translated mean that Canadian investigators will have the right to come to India and interrogate so-called potential suspects. And maybe that could be followed by a kangaroo court trial in Canada. And not to sound alarmist, but it might all end up even pointing fingers at our Prime Minister and censuring and docking and confining him much the same way Putin has been categorized by the International Court of Justice. I am not exaggerating all this. If we are not careful, this game plan can unfold in real time. The question one should be asking is, what are the push and pull factors behind this game plan? I will analyze all that in just a minute, but first a warm welcome to all viewers of the CAA show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. To watch this podcast, press the big red subscriber button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. Let us first understand what the issue of the Nijjar killing is all about. Hardeep Singh Nijjar is what I call a backdated for convenience Canadian citizen. He was a bona fide Indian citizen, a fugitive from the law in India. He had been high up in the fugitive list of Indian authorities both for gangsterism and terrorist-related activities for a long time. He entered Canada on forged documents and a concocted story of political persecution back home. There are video clips doing the rounds on YouTube about this man firing an AK-47 assault rifle in Canada in a terror training camp in the woods. Such a man became a cause célèbre for the Western world as if you were not dealing with a terrorist, but with an eminent Canadian citizen with the soul of Nelson Mandela. Many Western apologists of this man have been trying to create a scenario that India assassinated Sant Nijjar the same way as Saudi Arabia assassinated Jamal Khashoggi. There are serious attempts being made to paint India as a rogue state on the lines of Iran and North Korea that carries out extrajudicial killings. The double dealing standards of many in the West are so evident by such comparisons. Khashoggi was an eminent journalist who was butchered in cold blood. Nijjar was a common thug, a gangster come terrorist who in all probability was bumped off by another low-life gangster like him in a turf war for territorial or community dominance. There is then more that meets the eye in the repackaging of a criminal as what the West calls a political activist who was killed in his prime by a heartless Indian government. By subtly censuring India, the West is playing the classic game of carrot and stick. It is prepared to give India a seat at the high table, but on its terms. Play along with the West and the goodies will fall in your lap. The West frankly couldn't care less if the Khalistanis in their backyard became even more strident, obscuranitous, backward, hardline, bumming off each other in gang and drug-related shootouts and contracted killings. That all would be okay if they served the purpose of being fifth columnists against India and acting as a pressure group against India as and when the West required their services. The reading in many quarters in the West is that India, after the successful Chandrayaan mission and the G20 summit, has become too big for their boots and it should be cut to size. What better than the Nijjar issue to cut India down to size? In today's day and age, all appearances are deceptive. Behind the warm smiles and embraces, the long knife could be sheathed at the back. India could do well to take note of that. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA Show. I hope you really enjoyed this particular episode. If you like our show, do subscribe to us. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.